Welcome to the Talent Development Hot Seat. I'm your host, Andy Storch, and I'm excited that you're joining me today for another great episode and conversation to help you up your game and improve your capabilities in the world of talent development. And I've got a good one for you today. We're talking about a number of different things around the talent development space, including large scale leadership development, HR spaces, codifying values, and more. My guest today, Molly Hill, is the global head of talent development at Toast, which is a platform that empowers restaurants and small businesses to delight guests and be more successful out in the marketplace. Molly, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Andy. I'm pretty excited to be here on this bright sunny day.
I'm excited to have you on this beautiful sunny day. I'm 9 hours ahead of you, but it seems to be equally sunny, maybe a little more on your side. I've actually got some gray clouds up in the sky here in Barcelona, but it looks beautiful there outside the mountains I believe you're in the eastern side of the mountains
I
from
am
Seattle
on
and
the,
Washington.
I am. I'm right in north central Washington in Lake Chelan, Washington. We moved here just a few years ago. I spent my entire life in the Seattle area, a little bit in Southern California, but a few other spots, and made our way over to this little small town, little resort town here in Lake Chelan. It's one of my favorite places in the universe.
I like it. And working for a company based in the East Coast, but one of the I would imagine, like for me, the benefits that's come out of the pandemic, being able to work remotely from anywhere in a lot of situations now allows you to work there and you just tend to do it earlier.
I do tend to do it very earlier. I'm an early bird, though. My family will tell you I'm a 4 a.m. gal as far as waking up. So this has actually worked out perfectly. Toast is located in Boston. I get to spend a little bit of time in Boston as well, which is just an incredible city. And yeah, the benefits of working remotely, I can't tell you how it has kind of changed our lives from a family perspective. It's been pretty amazing.
That's fantastic. I used to be an early bird myself, 4 or 5 a.m., and then I moved to Spain and somehow I've adapted to the culture and I tend to be getting up later.
That's not the culture there, but maybe it could be if you can, take your afternoon nap or something like that. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, exactly. Get the siesta in there, stay up later, work later. Well, I want to get into some of the topics that we have planned for today, but I want to start with some of your background because you've had some really interesting roles working at some well-known companies like Starbucks and Airbnb. How did you get into the talent development space in the first place?
Yeah, I think everyone kind of says that they fell into this space. I think that that's pretty typical answer, but I actually got very, very lucky early on when I was still an undergrad. I went to the University of Washington and made a decision that I wanted to work at Disneyland for one summer and got very, very lucky to get connected with a recruiter who was recruiting for their college program, which is a summer internship program that they have for undergrads. And so I was a part of the college program actually all through college. So I went to Disney and worked at Disneyland every single summer. And as you continue to progress, they let you start to choose which area that you want to focus on. And somehow I just said, I hadn't even graduated from college yet, but I said, I really, really like training people. Like it's kind of
Hmm.
fun. And I moved into the training space in operations training at Disneyland. And then I graduated from college. Didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I was a communications major. I had kind of specialized in broadcast journalism, which I thought was the direction I wanted to go, but I loved Disney. And so I went back down and got a role in the Disney University and started teaching things like orientation and all of those different pieces, and just fell in love with this space. And honestly, I've kind of never looked back. It's been what I've been doing for quite a long time. I've been working in a lot of different industries, a lot of for me, it's not really about big names, but it is around brand love.
Mm.
I really focus on working for companies that I love, products that I use. And so have worked in tech. I was with Microsoft for quite a long time. I was with Starbucks. That was an incredible, incredible experience and someplace that I will always be near and dear to my heart.
Mm.
And then moved to Airbnb before coming to Toast. The Airbnb was the only space, and we could talk about that a little bit, where I actually popped outside of the HR space and
Mm.
worked more within the marketing and product marketing space. Talk about that role at some point here.
Yeah.
Um, and then I fell in love with Toast because my husband and I actually bought a bar out here in Lake Chelan. So the reason that we're out here, everything about kind of changing our lives, we became empty nesters, decided it would be a good idea to buy a bar,
As you do.
maybe.
As you do,
As
right?
one does, buy a
Yeah,
bar,
right.
rent a bar, and here we are. And we were Toast customers, and Toast came a calling, and it kind of all worked perfectly together.
That's fantastic. I want to ask a lot of questions at the bar. We won't go too far. How long have you had the bar there in that town?
We've owned the bar for 2.5 years now, and so um, yeah, bar business is fascinating. It's probably one of the reasons that I have such a great affinity for Toast and what Toast does,
Mm.
and the connection to the product itself. It is a really hard business. It fluctuates quite a bit, and especially we're in a resort town, and so
Yeah.
we rely very, very heavily on high seasons, and
Mm.
that can be hard. I am very grateful that I have another role as well as my husband does, and the bar can be a bit of a hobby.
Yeah.
Although I thought it was going to be a hobby, it's definitely like having two
Well,
full-time
you still have
jobs.
to have people there, right? Speaking of managing talent, people there who are running the bar, if it's not
Well,
you.
and I'm in there at least once or twice a week serving. I
Okay.
always tell my team that, and it's no joke. Like I'm actually, if someone calls in sick, it's me or my husband. So
Yeah.
I do front of house, he does the kitchen, and that's where we're
I was
at.
gonna say, the idea of running a bar, I would think is one of those things that sounds really cool, but it's an absolute mess and like a lot of stress on the back end. But hopefully it's not too bad. But still,
No, it
really,
keeps me on my toes.
really, really cool that you did it. And going back to Disney, like you said, you worked for some really strong brands, starting your career with Disney, working at Microsoft, Starbucks, Airbnb, now Toast. Disney, I feel like it's one of those companies I've heard, obviously, is one of the strongest brands in the world, and lots of people want to work there. A lot of people love working there, but I've also heard it's a really tough culture, and it's tough on a lot of people. What were some of the best things about working at Disney, and what were some of the hardest things about working at Disney?
I am probably one of those people, though, that sees probably the best in Disney. I think the
Mm,
thing that I loved about it, and probably also the reason why some people think that it's hard or actually the same thing, is that the strength and conviction towards the culture is so incredibly strong that
mm,
you need to believe in that place. You need to understand the brand. You need to believe in the experience that you're creating. You are a part of that show. You're not the separate show. And so I think for some that may be difficult if I am trying to be unique or push through or change things. Sometimes that can be hard in a culture like Disney where it's so convicted and strong in who they are and what they believe in and what they represent as far as experiences for families that may be a tough thing for me. I was so in awe of the experiences that they were able to create for people and the magic that they put together that I believed in that magic. And so for me, I think that was the best part of working there was being a part of it and contributing to the show, not necessarily like trying to push against it.
yeah, that's really cool. One question I want to ask you about your time at Microsoft, because you were there for 7 years, and I think if I'm doing my math right, you were there during what was probably a major change from the
Two
leadership
big
of Steve
things.
Ballmer, two leadership changes, right?
Yeah.
From Bill Gates
Yeah.
to Steve Ballmer to Satya Nadella, and there's been much made out in the marketplace of the major transformation that Satya Nadella has made at Microsoft from what many called a know-it-all culture under Steve Ballmer to a learn-it-all culture under Satya. Just curious, what are some lessons you took away from being there during those times?
Yeah, I mean, I feel very grateful at multiple companies to be able to be there to see CEO transitions. I think CEO transitions are something that you can put down on your resume and be able to talk about as far as what that looks like and what that experience is and how do you make those shifts in culture. It is incredibly it can be incredibly challenging, but I think the point that you're
Mm,
bringing up, Andy, which is what I experienced at Microsoft, is that you do truly see that culture shift and the changes that need to be made they do need to start from the top. And
mm,
so I think anyone who is trying to deeply shift culture from inside the organization probably needs to ask themselves, why am I trying to do this a bit versus if it's not being supported from a top level leadership? And so you look at something like Microsoft or other organizations I've been in where there's been shifts. Went from Kevin back to Howard at Starbucks. There's a lot of shifts that you see that you do need to kind of grab hold of what's the leader trying to accomplish, what's the shift they're trying to make, get into their brains, get into their minds, try to understand those types of culture shifts that are being made, and then move along with that and create the space and the programs and the systems and everything that works underneath to support that. But don't try to create the culture yourself in a role like mine.
Right. Yeah. So it really is all about what the standard is being set from the top on down. You can't just start in the middle somewhere. Moving on, you mentioned Starbucks. When you and I talked last time, you shared a story with me that I thought was really interesting and one that would be great for our listeners to hear about, which was the large scale leadership development you were involved in at Starbucks. And not everybody works for companies where you need to bring in hundreds of managers from around the country or the world, but this is absolutely what you get to deal with when you're at Starbucks and you're trying to develop leaders who are spread out everywhere, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there were two experiences in particular at Starbucks that I kind of called, just groundbreaking in my career. I always said I wish that I was a little closer to retirement age at that point because I could have kind of done a little mic drop and said I'm out. There's nothing better than those experiences I was able to create and be a part of within that organization. But yeah, I mean, they just did that again at Starbucks, but the commitment and the investment in bringing leaders together in person to be able to connect and learn in that kind of just high energy environment. And so we, in 2019, right before the pandemic, just the timing just happened to work out absolutely beautifully. It was in the fall of 2019. We brought together at that time, it was about a little over 12,000 store managers across all of North America into Chicago, created just these powerful, powerful experiences and really got targeted around where we wanted to focus as far as the leaders were concerned. But there's also there's this really special component of creating that energy and that spark to learn. And we had already built a incredibly robust plan to keep that moving beyond that special moment. And that is so key in the work that we do. And I think everyone kind of knows that, but it's really fun to create the event. It's really inspiring and energizing to create the event. But I think one of the things that I felt really proud of was kind of this tail that came after that. So, what are all the things that are going to pull those store managers through, give them the energy to go back into their stores and share with their teams, and then
Mm.
continue to learn from that point forward? It
Yeah.
was very similar to some of the work that we did after we had that a very significant event in Philadelphia. That was prior to the store manager conference that we had, and we had this opportunity. Obviously, I know a lot of people saw it in the news. It was a big one for me to be a part of as well. But this moment that we needed to address bias in our stores at Starbucks. And luckily at that time, both Kevin and Howard were supportive of us closing the stores down for a day, really leaning into learning, really leaning into the spaces, not just of teaching unconscious bias, but instead like stepping completely away from that and encouraging a conversation around experience and lived experiences and how bias shows up for all of us every day in our workspaces. And again, in that same experience that we were able to create at Starbucks when we shut those stores down, we had already created a plan for keeping the momentum alive, and we ended up creating a development series. We called it the Third Place Development Series that
Mm.
kept going every 7 weeks. We would continue to drop content. We would have that moment. We would give store managers time to sit with their teams and have those really hard conversations. And we went deep on all of these different topics around bias and how it shows up in our day-to-day lives and what that
Mm.
means for customers that are coming into the store every day. So
Yeah.
some pretty special moments that I was able to be a part of.
That was big and interesting. That was, happened before you put this big event together. Just curious for those that, I talked to a number of different people in L&D who are getting involved in some aspect of putting an event together for their organization this year or next year, whether bringing leaders together or all employees or a sales kickoff. What are some of the big things that you need to think about as you are putting together a large scale event and bringing a lot of leaders together like that?
Yeah. There's just such a basic place to start around why are we together in person?
Mm,
And we're talking a little bit about this remote environment that some of us are still working within as well. At that moment that you're bringing people together in person, the moment is there so that people can connect with each other. The moment is there so that they spark conversation, so that you spark the ability to make connection, to build deeper friendships, to
mm,
build camaraderie, and remembering that all the way through helped us for sure
mm,
ensure that people were not sitting there listening to someone talk. So
mm.
we did, oh my gosh, there were so many, everything was active. Everything was about group conversation. Everything
Okay.
had a learning circle to it. We spent as much time outside of the sitting and listening than we did inside. We did a 12,000 person group meditation
Whoa.
together in the same room where you could have heard a pin drop. But it
Wow.
was those sorts of experiences that you can't recreate in this environment that we're in
Mhm.
right now on
Yeah.
Zoom. And I think people forget that a lot. I've sat in a few, I've come to offsites and I've sat there thinking, man, I'm listening to a lot of people talk
Hmm.
in front of me in the same way that I could do
Mm,
in Zoom. And so I would continue to come back to this just importance of remembering why are we bringing people together? We're bringing people
mm.
together for connection. We're bringing people together to create new colleagues and friendships and create actual experiences. And so never letting yourself forget that. And sometimes leaders like to push up against that, Andy. I have a
Yeah.
lot of leaders that'll be like, oh, we need to get, all of these senior leaders and they need to be up there on stage and they need to have their time. And
Hmm.
but for me and for all of us in this talent development space, the very easy question is why, and just
Yeah.
having people talk and
Is it just
explain to you why,
ego or is it?
why, to help me understand a little bit more,
Hmm.
and then you usually can, you can kind of back away from that and say, okay, well, let's create that leader space in a different way.
Yeah.
Let's have them be a part of a learning circle. Let's have them be, they don't need to be on stage talking. That's not what we're here for.
Right. Yeah, I have organized three conferences myself now, and one of the reasons I got into it and started, these are the Talent Development Think Tank Conference, starting with the first one back in, it was supposed to be 2019, ended up happening in January 2020. And one of the whole ideas was I was going to conferences to meet people in the space, and I found that it'd be so boring because it was just lecture after lecture after lecture, a lot of times from people that are knowledgeable, but not necessarily good speakers. And I would just look around and think there's so much great knowledge in this room from all the participants here, and we're not really getting to talk to each other. And so I designed these conferences very similar to what you did with a lot of interactivity, group discussion. And one of the hardest things I think when you're organizing an event like that is to make sure you're giving people enough space to have those natural conversations. And it's
Mhm.
really hard because you feel so much pressure, like, oh, people are flying in from all over the place. We need to use every minute,
Right.
to like pump them with information and like have sessions. But oftentimes, I mean, I've been to many conferences myself as an attendee, and I think some of the most memorable times are the people I met at breaks and the conversations I had over lunch, not the sessions that, quite frankly, I probably could have watched on YouTube if I if I wasn't there, right?
Totally. I mean, we have so much access to information now. I say that all the time about like free learning libraries and podcasts like we
Mhm.
have. There's just so much access to information, but there isn't always access to experiences. And so
Right.
I even try to think about my role that way now, and I use that in my title a lot of times of like
Yeah.
how can we create experiences. Right now, we've been talking a little bit of Toast around rituals and experiences. Like, what are
Mm.
rituals and experiences? And as a part of that, you probably are going to learn. Absolutely, we're developing people, but instead of just making it about training, about content, about like how do we create an experience out of it that people will remember?
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, let's move on to what you've been doing at Toast. I know one of the big things you've been doing there is really jumpstarting this talent development space and making sure there's the right development is there for the right people, as well as codifying the values that need to be ingrained in the organization and the work that people do. How did you go about defining what needed to be done and then setting out, prioritizing the type of development or values-based work, whatever it is, to be done at Toast?
Yeah. I came in when I came into Toast, they had actually just recently released a new set of values. And so there was a CEO transition as well as a CPO transition in the few months right before I came in. And so they had just made this transition. The fun thing about it is that Aman, who is the current CEO, was also one of the founders. And so although he was transitioning into the CEO role, he also had this just obvious, incredible connection to the organization and had some real passion and drive and conviction towards where Toast was going in the future. And so, as they were kind of building out this new set of values, I was coming in right around that same time. And so they had new set of values and not any of the kind of pieces around it of what does it look like to codify that within the organization. So we've been chatting a lot about a few different things. One is just the basics around integrating those values into all of the different components for toaster experience. So things like hiring and how do we think about where does values show up? And rather than just creating I think with each piece of the toaster experience, rather than just saying things like, oh, we need to get these values into the hiring process, which is an easy thing. I think for a lot of people, it's like, oh, we're going to put them in the hiring process and then we need to like put them into performance management and then we put them into, and then we create like a training on the values, then we do this and that. Instead of that, we're we're again asking that question of why and what outcome do we want to get in each of those toaster experiences related to those values. And so for hiring in particular, we're still having conversations right now and we're working across talent development and talent acquisition to be able to say what do we want, how do we want the values to show up in the experience? Let's not just create a set of questions and kind of shove them in there, but what are we looking for? What do we really want to find as far as values are concerned connected to our candidates and those that are coming into the organization? What do we want? Are we looking for people that emulate those values, or are we trying to also show what our values look like and what the behaviors look like as a part of the interviewing process itself? So there's a lot of questions to ask within each of these
Mm.
rather than kind of shoving these pieces into it. Again, it's easy to just say, okay, well, let's throw them into this process, we'll throw them into this process, and all of a sudden, oh yay,
Right.
we
You
integrated
want to
our.
bring people with you, right? And make them feel like they're part of the process.
Exactly. So even things, there's all sorts of programming that we're putting in place. We have started kind of a regular cadence of conversation with managers that we're calling the leadership lunchbox. And each time we do that on a monthly basis, we are focusing on one of the behaviors that's associated with one of our values and just getting a little bit crisper and deeper into
Mm.
each of these behaviors rather than them always just being a set of things. And so it's our opportunity to be able to say, out of all these behaviors right now, what are the ones that we really want to focus on and shift and change? Along with that as well, I think one of the things that I had actually started to learn and pick up on a bit more when I was at Airbnb that I'm trying to pull forward into Toast as well is a lot of the connection between marketing principles and learning and development principles. And so when we think I was within the marketing organization, I really started going deep around how do you shift behavior of there it was a host population and applying that into we're really trying to do the same thing within an organization as well when you look at an employee base. So when you think about toasters, what sorts of behaviors are we trying to shift? And then let's take almost like a campaign approach to the way that we are trying to shift that behavior and kind of go all in on one particular behavior, whether it be something like um, thinking about creating clarity through the type of feedback that we're giving. That's one right now that we're trying to go really deep on. And let's go deep on that behavior and let's go all around it and let's create a campaign around it where everyone's talking about it, including our senior leaders, and see what types of shifts that we can make and then look at that measurement. Again, rather than just kind of making it, we're looking at all of our values and we're trying to, shift behaviors across all of our values all the time. That's just absolutely impossible.
Right.
It's too broad.
Yeah, one step at a time, and people get overwhelmed with that stuff. Tell us a little bit about the leadership lunchbox. I know a lot of people. Again, I talk to people every day, every week in learning and development. A lot of people organizing speaker series, lunch and learns, like wanting to kind of keep things going and provide sort of ongoing development to their leaders. So, what does that look like? And you said you're connecting it back to those values, right?
Yeah. The leadership lunchbox is taking a concept that I have been pulling through both at Starbucks and Airbnb, which is really it is the opposite of a newsletter, but it might take a little bit of the form of that. And it's actually trying to create these static. Um, I call them containers. My team thinks I'm crazy, but these containers that
Yeah.
stay the same every single month, and whether that be a little mini learning or whether that be something to take back to your team, a video to watch with your team, and then some discussion questions. Here are three questions to ask in every single one-on-one in this next upcoming month. Here's a little podcast with a leader that we have around this particular topic. They all tie back to the same behavior, and each month there are about 6 different ways to learn, which within the leadership lunchbox. I'm not going to track people doing every single one of them. I know that I'm a unique learner myself, and not everything appeals to me. And then there's a little curated list of books and podcasts and videos and things that, again, all attach back to this behavior. I'm just trying to get people interested in learning. I just
Mm,
want our leaders to be a little bit curious. And so if that takes me creating 6 different ways for you to be able to learn the same concept or you to be able to learn the same skill, so be it. And we're actually seeing great uptick in the engagement with this particular program, and it's been really fun. And even as a part of it, there's a group coaching session that you can
mm.
join. And so I am trying to take every single tool in my toolbox for learning and development over the number of years and saying, let's just put all of those every single month into a little lunchbox and say, here you go, here's your lunchbox. You choose what you want to eat. You choose
Mm.
where you want to be curious. We're not going to tell you how to learn because I know, again, I go back to the way that I learn, the way that my
Yep.
team learns, the way that my kids learn is completely different. We always know that philosophically as L&D professionals, but we don't always apply it. And so this is what the lunchbox looks
Yeah,
like.
I like that. Curious if you have any other more formal programs. And also, I remember you telling me last time we spoke that you've put an emphasis on creating community, at least among the
Yeah.
VPs or the more senior leaders. And that's a topic that I'm really passionate about these days as well. So can you tell us more about that, what that looks like?
We do. So just for context, I've been at Toast since September, so I'm coming up a couple months from now on my year. And one of the first things we wanted to put into place is a little more formal kind of approach to our VP development or executive development. So we created a program called Breadth and Depth. That's breadth, kind of emphasizing the bread part
Okay.
of our bread
Okay.
puns
Yeah. Toast. Got it.
at
Right.
Toast.
Right. Right.
And we actually have been working with BTS on this one in
Hmm.
particular. From an organization, we created the most absolutely incredible business simulation, which calling it a business simulation doesn't do it justice in
Mm,
our ability to be able to really tackle two things in particular that were important for our senior leadership level. One was not just business acumen, but again, this kind of conviction towards the business, this belief in Toast, what Toast does, why we're here, who we are as an organization, and being able to really go deep and understand the business at an incredibly deep level, and then doing that while creating community within the VP audience. And so that was something that was kind of the secondary outcome that we had been looking for within the VPs, is whatever we did from a development perspective, we also wanted to make sure that we were creating a different sort of connection. It is one of the places that I would say both the two factors of one, having to be senior leaders, that can be a very lonely place to be sometimes, and not necessarily knowing who those people are that you can lean on from a peer perspective, especially outside of your direct reporting relationship. But then also the fact that we're remote. And so we have kind of a split between some senior leaders that are sitting within a major hub, mostly Boston, a little bit within Dublin, and a few other locations that we have, but a lot of senior leaders and VPs and SVPs that are sitting outside of that area and trying to understand how they can continue to make connections. And so breadth and depth was our opportunity to be able to bring everyone together. I feel very fortunate that that Aman and Steve and the rest of the senior team were willing to dedicate not only that much time, but also invest in our senior leaders in that way. And then we'll continue to take that and build off of that as we go. It was another one where there was that in-person experience, 3 days in this business simulation. But then we also created a space for ongoing coaching. We have development plans that are being created, and then we have those cohorts that were together for their business simulation have
mm.
continued to meet with each other, and they will meet with each other until we get together again in the fall.
Okay, so there's a mix of aspects to this. You've got the business simulation, but there's many other ways that you bring people together for conversations, both virtually and in person, so
Mhm.
that they're learning, they're practicing, and you're also creating community and
For,
relationships throughout the experience.
for sure, for sure. Yeah.
I like that a lot. Leadership, I know everybody's working on. Career development is another big topic, and you and I chatted about that a little bit last time we talked. You said you were putting a program in place that you called Before They Apply, shifting people to take more ownership of their careers. So can you talk about what career development looks like these days?
Yeah. Yeah, we've been exploring career development quite a bit. I would say kind of the two topics of both career development as well as kind of this topic of internal mobility, and bringing the two things together to be able to have this conversation of first, how do we feel around internal mobility within the organization? Are people able to move? Do we have the infrastructure in place where people feel comfortable moving? Do we have the culture where people feel comfortable exploring within the organization? So that was definitely one. I think the second thing that's just a reality of where we are as an organization, probably a lot of your listeners are as well, is from a growth perspective. we were we are an incredibly high growth organization, but we're moving from kind of the space of being a startup into kind of a large organization, kind of in our teenage years. Everyone likes to say that, and kind of figuring out what it looks like to grow up a bit. As a part of that, we moved from a space of having very fast promotions, moving quickly from a ladder perspective in your career, being able to just chunk your way up, into a space now where we're really continuing to review the organization on an ongoing basis, looking at the layers that we have within the organization and ensuring that we know what's necessary, what's not necessary. And also, I would say, thinking about scale in a way that isn't just about adding additional people. So as we think about growing, we think about scale. It isn't just about continuing to add to the pot, but it's really about thinking about working a little bit differently and doing that work in a different space. In that, there becomes some growing pains, I would say, for any organization. And that's what Toast is experiencing right now, where internally Toasters are saying, wait, I'm not feeling like I can grow in the way that I used to, or I'm feeling like I'm hitting a wall because I have viewed this growth as promotion for so many years. And as
Mm,
that continues to shift, what we're looking at now is shifting away from even the way that we are talking about career development, the way that we're talking about internal mobility, and helping toasters again be able to have a different perception of what growth looks like for themselves, and also ensuring that they understand that it's them first in the center of their career with the support system that sits around them. Their
Yeah.
manager might be one role in that, but there's a lot of other people and components to that, but it's still them that's owning their career. And
Hmm.
so for a lot of our toasters, that's new. It's a new space to grapple with and play with a little bit. And so we're just starting this process of kind of putting together what does the framework look like for us to even shift perception around growth within the organization.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a lofty goal, and will continue to be something that will
Yeah.
need support from all around the organization to continue to support, but one that is important for any individual to have, especially as they continue to grow their career and move outside of the
Sure.
org.
Yeah. It's a big mindset shift, right? I mean, the way things used to be, growth was all about moving up or possibly out if you didn't, right? Getting that promotion, wanting to get into a leadership role. Not everybody wants that these days. And now we realize that there's lots of different ways to grow in our careers. We've got flatter organizations. So many people in talent development are telling me we don't have the hierarchy or the promotions as much anymore. We want people to think about different ways to grow. We really want our people to take ownership of their careers, which is obviously something I've been saying for many years and am passionate about as well. And
I see it
uh,
right behind you, Andy. Look at
yeah,
that.
yeah, got the book behind. Exactly. You know, I'm here to help for anybody that wants
For
to
sure.
help their people make that shift
We're
to
gonna we're
owning their
gonna tap
careers.
into Andy for sure.
Yeah, we'll have to talk more. So yeah, career development, ever evolving in so many places. I want to, last thing I want to get into is touching on AI, which is of course a subject that everybody is thinking about and figuring out, okay, how do we do more with this? How do we get our people to adopt more of AI? Sometimes I'm getting questions recently, how do I get my HR team or my L&D team to think about using AI, or how can we be using AI more? And when I first connected with you a few weeks back, you came on, you had a t-shirt on because you were participating in an HR AI hackathon. And I thought that was so cool and just very topical because so many people are thinking about that. So I'd love to know more about what that looked like and, what you learned from the experience, what the team learned from the experience. Is it something that others could do as well?
Yeah. Um, it's so much fun. So the small history that's so funny is that I participated in a hackathon at Microsoft way back in the day when I was there. And at Microsoft, it was this kind of you spend the night. We were in tents in Redmond, and like, you just hack for a total of 3 days. You go through the whole thing, judging all of that, and it was an incredible experience for me, and something that I just did never thought that I could be a part of, especially kind of being on the HR side of
Mm,
the organization. And it can also be really scary, Andy. Like I'm not a developer. I have zero experience on the tech side of the organization, although I've worked for a few tech organizations, but it can be very, very scary. And so I will be fully on when this came up, our incredible head of people technology, Ermi, came up and kind of thought of this idea. She really wanted to lean in, and she wanted to lean in for our people organization. So we call our people organization as People and Places at Toast, and she wanted it to be specific for us so that we weren't having to feel like we were a part of the tech organization's
yeah,
hack or outside of that, or feel intimidated. And so
right.
Ermi created this incredible opportunity. She put together learn all of these different learning pieces that our team kind of helped out a bit with to make sure that people could kind of understand what's possible. Put together the opportunity for people to do whatever topics they wanted to and create these AI, but they had to obviously have an AI component. We used many different tools that none of us thought we would ever have access to, and we actually were able to build out demos ourselves within People and Places, like within an HR team. It was incredible to be able to do. And so I actually joined a team that and encouraged all of our team to join some different teams. I joined a team that was focused on career development and actually
Yeah.
created a bit of a AI chatbot for career to kind of help. start to think about before you apply. What are all the different things that I should be thinking about? How should I be thinking about my current skills? How can I import my LinkedIn profile? How can I put in my resume? How can I put in all this information and then actually have a conversation with a career coach that is an AI chatbot to be able to at least start to think before I kind of made this decision of I'm going to apply for this role, apply for this role, apply for this role, to think a little bit about how I could set up my career and the conversations I should be having and what I'm eligible for and all of these different pieces. And it was a lot of fun. I was incredibly impressed by what was created within our teams. We had 5 minutes to present our demo and and we went through and we probably had 40 or so projects that were proposed within our people and places team and the energy was absolutely fantastic. And yes, I think it's something that every HR team not only can do but should do. But again, it was scary. It was scary for me
Yeah.
because it's a space that is completely outside of my day to day, and especially for someone who's been in this HR space for as long as I had. I'll be completely, I probably have similar feelings to many of us out there. I'm very um, not scared of AI, but
Yeah.
sometimes I have to really push myself to get in there and challenge myself to
Yeah.
learn because I do
We're
know that that's where we are from a future perspective.
Yeah, we're people. We get intimidated by technology. It's understandable, right? Like there's people that love technology and they get intimidated by people, and we love people and we get intimidated by technology. That's okay. And
Good
we
way of
tell those
saying
technology people, hey, you've got to go out there and build relationships and talk to other people. So we've got to eat our own
we got
dog
to
food,
do
as
it. We
they
got to
say.
do
I
it
don't know.
ourselves. Exactly. Exactly. That's what I did. That's what I did.
Yeah, you got to do it. Just to get real practical for people listening who, let's say someone has a team of 5 or 10 L&D or HR professionals and they're thinking, yeah, I want to go do something like this so that we can start to play with this. Is this something that you can do just within HR? Do you need to do it with the rest of the organization? How much time do you set aside? Do you give guidance on like specific tools that people should be thinking about using or how to think about projects? Like, how do you set this up?
Yeah, for the one that we did in particular, we definitely had it timed, and so we gave ourselves kind of about I would say 2 to 3 days to dedicate to the hack itself. I love when we keep it kind of condensed into
Hmm.
a time period. Obviously, we had thought about a few things beforehand, but I think it's good the more that you can kind of make it condensed. So then you also don't try to create a perfect product. You're not trying to create the perfect solution. You're just trying to lean in and explore and be curious and try. And that's really what the idea of the hackathon was for sure. So I think you can do it in any team. The reason I enjoyed this one so much more though is I would recommend keeping it within your HR team if you possibly can, so that again you don't need to feel that intimidation like we were
Yeah.
just saying from the tech organization. You don't need to feel like it's like you're not contributing to the actual tech part of the AI hackathon, which I actually would have said that if I was to participate anywhere else with the tech, I would have played the people role. Here,
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm actually playing the tech role, and that's what we
Nice.
really should be leaning into is learning in that space.
That's cool. Molly, we've got to wrap this up. Is there
Yeah.
anything that we haven't talked about that maybe you're especially proud of that we haven't covered in this interview so far?
Oh my gosh, what else? I think the only other we touched on it briefly. I wanted maybe I can just talk a little bit about that special Airbnb experience that I
Oh
had
yeah.
because I think it was for anyone who is thinking about a career or in a career in talent development. I it was my one opportunity that I would say over my 25-year career, 30-year, who knows how long I've been working at this point, but to be able to actually explore outside of HR a little bit and get back in touch with the business in a completely different way. And I know that that's always on a lot of our HR leaders' minds, but for me, this opportunity came up at Airbnb, which again sat outside of the HR organization. This opportunity to be able to support the host organization, which was 5 million hosts across the globe, the biggest audience that I had ever even thought I could touch, and thinking about that audience in a way that they are not employees. They didn't need to do anything that we gave them. They didn't need to take advantage of any resource that was out there because they just happened, some of them just happen to have a second property somewhere that they're just trying to make some extra money on it. And this kind of request came from Catherine Powell, who is one of my favorite humans in the entire universe, who's actually a former Disney and was at had moved into Airbnb to say, well, what if hosts were actually really excited about hospitality? Like, what if they didn't just want to open up their space, but they actually wanted to create experiences and a hospitable environment themselves? And how do we teach that? And how do we create resources for them? And what if they actually want to make this a career? And so it was taking all of these concepts that I had learned over my multiple years at different organizations and applying them to an audience that a non-employee audience. And I think the highlight there was my opportunity both to really understand and learn some marketing concepts in a completely different way and apply them into people and then take that back, as well as a reminder of really what it looks like to measure behavior change. And that was something that although I had been doing for my entire career, I hadn't been attached to the um, profit part of the organization and been really held accountable to what that looks like and why I was there. And so taking those concepts of measurement when it comes to product marketing and behavior change and clicks and engagement and all of these different pieces, and then pulling that back into this kind of world of talent development and saying, okay, well, never forget the importance of measuring progress. And sometimes it's okay to say, you know what, that didn't work.
Hmm.
We're going to dump that thing. We're going to try something else out. Like not just being crazy about, well, this is our program and I have to continue to deliver it
Right.
because it's important to me.
Yeah,
Well,
ego, right.
the ego part can kill you in this profession sometimes. So you have to let go, dump it. It's not working, but you only know that if you're measuring progress. And so I
Mm,
just get really proud of that part of my career journey, which
yep.
helped kind of catapult me then back into this talent development space in a
Right.
different way.
Yeah, so many cool things you've done there, and I think that's a good lesson for people to learn. Molly, I like to ask also, are there any trends that you're following that you're especially excited about? I know we talked a little bit about AI, so it could be that, but is there anything else that in the talent development space you're excited about right
Yeah.
now?
AI for sure. I'm always following trends around performance.
Hmm.
Um, Approach to performance, measuring performance, ratings versus not ratings. How do we reward performance? I think it is so emotionally deep for employees and the attachment to how I'm doing is one that I stay incredibly connected to, and I think is kind of the heart of some of the work that we do in talent development as well, and just
Yeah.
ensuring that people are have the clarity that they need to do better and grow, or excel in their roles is much more complex than I think that we think it is. And that dovetails right into building manager capability, which I also am continuing to always be
Yeah,
fascinated with.
definitely. Molly, is there a book or a TED Talk that has made a big impact for you or you often recommend?
Gosh. Um, oh, yeah, I
I
knew
know I didn't
I
prepare you for this ahead of time.
I should have had that one off the
No,
top
no,
of my
it's okay.
I am always okay. So I will say right now, I am trying to move away from business books. So
Okay.
I'm actually not reading anything right now in this moment that isn't, I'm actually I'm
You can
reading
recommend a novel if you want.
I'm reading my former college roommate wrote she wrote a fantasy book that I'm actually reading right now that is like completely out of that realm. And
What's it
so
called? Let's give her a shout.
Heirs and Spares. So it's called Heirs and Spares. It's a series. It's super cool. It's based in kind of France in the very just kind of an imaginary time. And her name
Okay.
is Jenny Spore. There, we'll
Okay, Airs and Spares by Jenny Spoor. Yeah, we'll put that on there. Molly, is there a tool or an app or a platform that you use, your team is using that has been especially helpful lately? It could be AI or non-AI.
Yeah, well, we're within, I think Gemini has been kind of a game changer for us. Our organization has kind of just kind of put Gemini into the system. So we're using Gemini for AI for everything, which has been fantastic. I'm also a huge fan of Monday.com, or Monday, if anyone has used it from a project management standpoint. I know
Mm.
that's not simple, but it actually has kind of helped connect within the team. That's another tool that we're loving right now as well. And I still continue to be fueled by Mel Robbins from a podcast perspective. That
Okay.
more is a personal fuel for me, but I think we can put that one out there as well. I think that I connect with that woman in a way like no other, and so I think for anyone who's looking for kind of that personal fuel on a day-to-day basis, she's the one that does it for me.
He is amazing. I agree. Let them. And Molly, last question for you, for anyone out there. You've worked in so many different interesting roles, and now taking on this head of talent role at Toast. For anyone out there in talent development who's looking for ways to grow more in their own careers and accelerate their success, what's one more piece of advice you would give?
Uh, Choose wisely when it comes to where you work.
Mm,
Choose choose the company. You will find and move your way around different work and find different experiences, but be excited and passionate and a user of the company and the product that you work for.
mm.
Um, it is the basic as I've been choosing where I've been working across my career. I've had a lot of opportunities to work for places where I didn't understand, use, or love the product, and I just don't take advantage of those opportunities because I know who I
Mm.
am when I'm in a place that lights me up.
I've done that a lot with investing. I've been, investing in individual stocks for a long time, and I tend to gravitate more towards those stocks where, like, okay, I know the brand, I know how they make money, I understand the business. Because a lot of companies out there that it's just really hard to understand. So I've been a long time shareholder of Starbucks because I know how they make money.
Absolutely was
They buy coffee, they make it, they brew it, they sell it. I mean, there's other parts of the business, of course, but that's the main thing. I get it.
for sure.
Well,
Yeah, let it
Molly,
be something that you love.
yeah, Molly, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for taking time to come on and share with us here at the Talent Development Hot Seat. I really appreciate it. I know it's been valuable for our listeners as it has been for me. And I look forward to keeping in touch and talking more with you in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks, Andy. Good to see you.